Welcome to Episode 8, Vouchering and Settlement. In this episode, you will learn how to file travel expense voucher claims consistent with the federal travel regulation and the department's travel policy, as well as the process for settling claims. By the end of this episode, you will learn the following: what a travel expense voucher claim is, the FTR standards for travel expense voucher claims, the 4 flavors of travel expense voucher claims and their purposes, how often an employee may submit a travel expense voucher claim, employee responsibilities for claims, the designated approving official's responsibilities regarding the claims review process, how and why voucher claims are routed differently than TDY authorization requests, when claims may be returned to the claimant, the FTR prescribed claims review process, including associated time frames and agency responsibilities, how untimely claims are processed, how claims against already settled claims are processed, the manual claims process, the purpose of signing travel expense voucher claims and the claims signature standards, the post-payment travel voucher review process, the 3 methods of reimbursement of claims. The following symbols draw your attention to a particular point or topic. The red circle and exclamation point denotes a very important point. The yellow caution triangle denotes a safety note warning that failure to heed the point will likely cause significant issues. The blue exclamation point and banner denotes a best practice, and the blue binoculars denote a case study used to further explain or provide an example. A travel expense voucher claim is a written request, supported by documentation and receipts where applicable, for reimbursement of expenses incurred in the performance of official travel, including permanent change of station, PCS, travel. A voucher claim consists of a series of smaller, itemized expense claims. Claims must be submitted through the eGov travel system according to the procedures established by the agency. Claims will not be accepted any other way. The FTR prescribes specific procedures for both claimants and the government for processing claims. Until a claim is made, there are no actions to be taken. The basic standards for travel expense voucher claims set by FTR Section 301 to 52.8 are: each expense claimed must be itemized. A receipt or other document must be provided when required. The expense claimed must have been authorized. Additionally, FTR Section 301 to 52.3 requires the claim to be electronically signed. The ETS has all the tools needed for claims submission and settlement in a manner consistent with law, regulation, and policy. The ETS facilitates an employee meeting these requirements through the program parent-child relationship of TDY authorizations and travel expense voucher claims. Expenses are requested by day, type, and amount on the TDY authorization request. Those expenses that are approved automatically port to the travel voucher when it is created in the ETS. Additionally, there is functionality to affix a receipt to each claimed expense. There are 4 flavors of travel expense voucher claims: interim, final, reclaim, local transportation. There is no such thing as a supplemental voucher or an amended voucher. Some employees mistakenly believe they may continue to submit additional claims after the final voucher claim is settled. Also, some employees do not understand that an approved TDY authorization cannot be retroactively amended after TDY has started except as narrowly allowed by law. Interim vouchers: employees may file 1 interim travel expense voucher claim every 30 days they are on continuous temporary duty. Final voucher: employees may file 1 final travel expense voucher claim after temporary duty ends. Employees are not allowed to file additional travel expense voucher claims after the final voucher has been settled. Reclaim voucher: used to reclaim those expense types and/or amounts from an interim or final voucher that were disallowed by a designated approving official. Local transportation voucher: used to claim reimbursement of transportation expenses incurred while transiting the area of the official station on official business. An employee completes the travel expense voucher claim by itemizing all expenses incurred, affixing all lodging receipts and receipts for items costing $75 or greater, signing and submitting the claim within 5 days of returning to work from TDY. A claimant's signature attests the claim is not false, fictitious, or fraudulent. No further claims may be made for the trip once the final voucher and any reclaim vouchers are settled. The agency's responsibilities are performed through 2 ETS roles: the designated approving official, the certifying officer. The FTR prescribes the duties of each official. Let's review the travel expense voucher claim routing process before examining the agency's responsibilities met by the designated approving official and the certifying officer. TDY travel authorizations are the parent documents of travel expense voucher claims. However, the two documents serve very different purposes, and they must be processed, according to different rules. In general, TDY authorizations and travel expense voucher claims route according to the responsibilities assigned to user roles. For TDY authorizations, the employee requests permission to travel and incur expenses. Next, the certifying officer certifies funds, time, purpose, and amounts. Finally, the designated approving official authorizes incurring of expenses amount and types. For travel expense voucher claims, the employee claims amounts. Next, the designated approving official reviews claim and attests that it is proper. Finally, the certifying officer certifies claim as proper based on attestation of designated approving official. The travel expense voucher claim routing process consists of: first, the claimant itemizes expenses, submits necessary receipts or documentation, signs and submits claim. Next, the approving official allows and disallows claims, makes proper notification, does not return voucher to claimant. Next, the certifying officer ensures the claim is proper, may return improper claims to approving official for correction. Finally, the financial management system makes payment. Warning: never return signed expense voucher claims to claimants. Process them as is. The FTR assigns the greatest responsibility to the designated approving official because that is the person who authorized the temporary duty. They have the most knowledge of the trip. FTR Section 301-71.200 allows this authority to be delegated to another supervisory management official. The primary responsibility is to allow or disallow expenses and to make the FTR required notifications. The FTR prescribes a specific process that must be followed to ensure decisions are not arbitrary or capricious. A travel expense voucher claim must be accepted as is and processed once signed and received from the claimant. The claim is never returned to the claimant for correction or changes once it is received. By signing the claimant attested it is not false, fictitious, or fraudulent. It is presumed the claimant's request is honest until proven otherwise. This does not mean the amounts claimed must be allowed. It just means the claim itself was received and will be processed according to the FTR prescribed process. To start, a designated approving official must review a claim within 7 calendar days of receipt. If the claim cannot be paid within 30 days, then the employee must be notified within 7 working days of any error that would prevent payment within 30 days. By error, the department interprets this to mean a processing error, not a disagreement with the claim or a perceived error by the employee. The employee is responsible for ensuring the claim's accuracy, not the government. The FTR requires employees to keep records of travel expenses incurred for the purpose of filing accurate claims. See Section 301-52.13. The ETS has built-in error codes that display when a system technical error might be the cause of a payment delay. These fulfill the FTR notification requirement when there is a technical issue. FTR Section 301-71.206 prescribes the travel expense voucher claim review process. What must we, the agency, do if we disallow a travel claim? You must: A. Pay the employee the amount of the travel claim which is not in dispute. B. Notify the employee that the claim was disallowed with a detailed explanation of why, and C. Tell the employee how to appeal the disallowance if he or she desires an appeal, and your process and schedule for deciding the appeal. A. Pay the employee the amount of the travel claim which is not in dispute. What makes an expense not in dispute? The expense type must be listed on the approved TDY authorization. The expense must be less than or equal to the amount listed on the approved TDY authorization. If the expense is for lodging, then the receipt must be attached in the ETS. If the expense is $75 or greater, then the receipt must be attached in the ETS. If the employee does not provide a required receipt, then they must provide a memorandum acceptable to the designated approving official of why the receipt could not provided, affixing the memorandum to the claim in the ETS. What else makes an expense not in dispute? If the per diem methodology is actual expense and the approved TDY authorization specifies the employee must provide receipts for specific meals or food, then the receipts must be attached in the ETS. If a foreign flagged carrier or ship was used, then the required justification in the proper format must be affixed to the claim. If a rental car larger than compact was authorized, then the designated approving official's justification must be written in the notes section. Any retroactive amendment must meet the legal standards for such action. B. Notify the employee that the claim was disallowed with a detailed explanation of why. The notification should include the expense type, date, and amount of the disallowed claim. Why the claim was disallowed based on the rules. Cite the specific rule whenever possible. This is why it is important for supervisors to know the rules. B. Notify the employee that the claim was disallowed with a detailed explanation of why. Example of when the amount claimed exceeds the amount authorized for the expense type. The amount of $20 for the transportation expense type, taxi, on June 31 was disallowed because it exceeded the amount authorized on the approved TDY authorization. You were authorized $30 but claimed $50. CFTR Section 301-70.1a. B. Notify the employee that the claim was disallowed with a detailed explanation of why. Example of when claimed expense type is not listed on the approved TDY authorization. The amount of $20 for expense type transportation network company incurred February 30 was disallowed because it was not authorized on the approved TDY authorization. You were not authorized to use a TNC. CFTR Section 301-70.1a. B. Notify the employee that the claim was disallowed with a detailed explanation of why. Examples of when required receipts were not provided. The amount of $100 for expense type lodging on November 31 was disallowed because a receipt was not provided as required by the FTR. CFTR Section 301-11.25. Or, you were notified receipts were required for all expenses greater than $5 because you were approved for per diem using the actual expense method. Receipts were not provided, so the claimed per diem amount of $300 was reduced to the lodgings plus per diem method rate of $100. CFTR Section 301-11.306. C. Tell the employee how to appeal the disallowance if he or she desires an appeal, and your process and schedule for deciding the appeal. The necessary notifications depend on where the claim is in the review process. Here's an example for a final voucher claim. You may appeal the expense types and amounts disallowed on the final voucher if you desire by filing another travel expense voucher claim. You must provide any required receipts or documentation. Your reclaimed voucher will be reviewed in 7 days per the FTR. Here's an example for a reclaimed voucher when an expense was disallowed again. You may challenge the disallowing of expense types/amounts claimed on the final voucher by filing a new voucher to reclaim the disallowed amounts. You must provide any required receipts or documentation. Your reclaimed voucher will be reviewed in 7 days per the FTR. When a claim is not submitted within 6 years of the last day of travel, the designated approving official will use the ETS notes functionality to enter the text from 31 U.S. Code Section 3702 into the claim. Reduce all claimed amounts to zero. Do not delete the expense types. Be sure to not reduce or delete the ETS user fee and voucher fee. Stamp the claim approved. Route the claim to the certifying officer to certify the payment of the ETS user fee and voucher fee. If the claimant is no longer an employee at HHS, send a copy of the settled claim by email or mail. No further action or communication with the claimant regarding the matter is required. When a final travel expense voucher claim has been settled, there is no authority to continue to pay additional claims, with one limited exception that we will later address. Accept the claim and process it as follows. Use the ETS notes functionality to enter a note to the effect of: claimant's final travel expense claim was settled in full following the claimant submitting a travel expense voucher claim signed as not being false, fictitious, or fraudulent. No other amounts are due. Reduce all claimed amounts to zero. Do not delete the expense type. Be sure to not reduce or delete the ETS user fee and voucher fee. Stamp approved. Certify to pay the ETS user fee and voucher fee. What if scenarios are often posed regarding travel expense voucher claims? The most common is, what if an employee forgets to claim an expense on the final claim and then claims it later? A variation of this is, what if they provide a receipt later? In general, and with one exception, once a final voucher has been settled, subsequent claims must be disallowed because the employee attested the final claim was not false, fictitious, or fraudulent. The one exception to filing a subsequent voucher claims is if an employee does not provide a receipt for lodging expenses, but later does. This is because an employee is entitled to be reimbursed per diem, and the CBCA has said in its rulings the word entitlement is a strong word, meaning the board would rule in the employee's favor if the expense were proved to be incurred. So, if lodging receipts are later presented in another claim, before the overall statute of limitations for claims expires, then the employee should be reimbursed for the expenses. Federal Travel Regulations Section 301-73.100 has mandated electronic processing of travel since December 31, 2004. There is no FTR provision for paying employees' travel expense voucher claims manually. There are job aids available that prescribe what must be done to resolve nearly all document workflow issues, including if a voucher irreparably ceases, a rarity. Employees who request manual payment of travel expense voucher claims must be directed to file their claims through the eGov travel system. Claims will not be accepted any other way. 31 U.S. Code Section 3702, Authority to settle claims. B1. A claim against the government presented under this section must contain the signature and address of the claimant or an authorized representative. An authorized representative is someone who has legal power of attorney to sign. FTR Section 301-52.3 establishes that an employee may sign a claim in ink only until September 30, 2006. FTR Section 301-71.3 allows agencies to use an electronic signature once the NIST standards are met. The current ETS solution meets that standard. All travelers have a means to access the eGov travel system to electronically sign their claims, including invitational travelers and EMS employees. This flowchart shows the approving official voucher claims review process. Financial operations organizations typically have a business unit dedicated to reviewing claims paid to ensure payments made were accurate and not improper. Post-payment travel voucher review, PPTVR, is the process applied for reviewing claims. Contemporary financial operations perform PPTVR using robotic process automation, or bots. A bot can be programmed to identify non-compliance and irregularities in claims. When an unauthorized, inaccurate, or improper payment is verified as having been made, the funds must be recouped. This is accomplished by salary offset, which is a non-punitive administrative procedure. If a claim might be false, fictitious, or fraudulent, then the matter must be referred to the HHS Office of Inspector General for investigation or management inquiry. The payment of a claim is triggered when the certifying officer applies their electronic signature to the claim, stamping it certified. The eGov travel system directs the financial management system to make the payment, and the financial system produces a schedule that is sent to Treasury and the banks. The payment will follow each expense type's method of reimbursement listed on the voucher. There are three methods of reimbursement. Non-reimbursable. Personal. IBA. Non-reimbursable simply means the amount will not be paid to the employee, but instead will be used to reconcile the financial management system. Any travel expense paid by the government is not reimbursable to the employee. Personal means the expense amount will be paid to the employee's personal bank account. IBA means the expense types will be paid directly to the government contractor bank so the IBA card account can be credited. Split pay is used to pay the IBA card directly. It is the department's prerogative to pay some or all reimbursements to the IBA travel charge card, including any per diem amounts. Presently, the three expense types that comprise the highest travel costs are paid to the IBA: common carrier transportation, lodging, and rental cars. When is it appropriate to return a signed travel expense voucher claim that has been received from a claimant? A. When the certifying officer determines the claim is not proper. B. If the employee needs to make corrections to the claim. C. Never. The claim is to be received and processed as is. D. If the employee did not affix receipts to the claim as required. Pause the video, consider your response, and then resume to learn the answer. The correct answer is C. Never. The claim is to be received and processed as is, which is not a standard that must be met for a travel expense voucher claim to be paid. A. The claimed expense must have been authorized. B. The claimed expense must be itemized. C. The claim must be electronically signed. D. The claim must have been received within 5 working days. Pause the video, consider your response, and then resume to learn the answer. The correct answer is D. the claim must have been received within 5 working days. If a claimant submits a claim by email or by letter mail more than 6 years after the last day of the claim trip dates, then what must be done first to administer the claim? A. The claim must be returned without action. B. TDY authorization using the current fiscal year's funds must be created in the eGov travel system. C. The claim must be submitted to the Office of the General Counsel. D. The eGov travel system must be used to create a TDY authorization that uses a common accounting number for the year the travel occurred. Pause the video, consider your response, and then resume to learn the answer. The correct answer is A. The claim must be returned without action. In settling travel expense voucher claims, what ETS tool can be used to meet the FTR requirement to tell the employee how to appeal the disallowance if he or she desires an appeal, and your process and schedule for deciding the appeal? A. The justification fields under the Audit tab. B. The Notes functionality. C. The Receipts upload functionality. D. The Returned action stamp. Pause the video, consider your response, and then resume to learn the answer. The correct answer is B. The Notes functionality. What are the 4 flavors of travel expense voucher claims? A. Chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, and pistachio. B. Interim, supplemental, final, and local transportation. C. Interim, final, reclaim, and local transportation. D. Amended, supplemental, interim, and final. Pause the video, consider your response, and then resume to learn the answer. The correct answer is C. Interim, final, reclaim, and local transportation. Complete this sentence. A certifying officer A. Is responsible for allowing and disallowing expenses. B. Assumes ultimate responsibility under 31 U.S.C. Section 3528 for the validity of the claim. C. Ensures the designated approving official's work is sufficient by correcting claims. D. Returns claims to reviewing officials to correct claims. Pause the video, consider your response, and then resume to learn the answer. The correct answer is B. Assumes ultimate responsibility under 31 U.S.C. Section 3528 for the validity of the claim. Complete this sentence from the Federal Travel Regulation. The authorizing/approving official A. Shall review the completed claim to ensure that the claim is properly prepared in accordance with regulations and agency procedures prior to authorizing it for payment. B. Assumes ultimate responsibility under 31 U.S.C. Section 3528 for the validity of the claim. C. Authorizes payment of the completed claims after certification. D. Shall review the completed claim to ensure it is properly prepared by the employee and reviewed prior to authorizing it for payment. Pause the video, consider your response, and then resume to learn the answer. The correct answer is A. Shall review the completed claim to ensure that the claim is properly prepared in accordance with regulations and agency procedures prior to authorizing it for payment. If an employee wishes to challenge the disallowance of a travel expense type or amount, what must they do first? A. Nothing. Employees have no recourse available to challenge disallowed claims. B. Amend the voucher to reclaim the disallowed expense. C. Present their case to the Civilian Board of Contract Appeals. D. File a separate reclaimed voucher for the disallowed expense, including any necessary receipts or documentation. Pause the video, consider your response, and then resume to learn the answer. The correct answer is D. File a separate reclaimed voucher for the disallowed expense, including any necessary receipts or documentation. Which is not a responsibility of a designated approving official in reviewing a travel expense voucher claim. A. Pay the employee the amount of the travel claim which is not in dispute. B. Notify the employee that the claim was disallowed with a detailed explanation of why. C. Tell the employee how to appeal the disallowance if they desire an appeal, and the agency process and schedule for deciding the appeal. D. Return the travel claim to the employee for correction. Pause the video, consider your response, and then resume to learn the answer. The correct answer is D. Return the travel claim to the employee for correction. Some operating divisions include an additional reviewer role before the designated approving official in their voucher routing list. How many extra days does the federal travel regulation allow for this additional level of review of travel expense voucher claims? A. Up to 5 days, because the 7-day time limit includes 1 day for the designated approving official and 1 day for the certifying officer. B. None. Additional levels of review consume the designated approving official's 7-day time limit. C. As many as necessary. Any additional days needed to determine whether the claim is proper do not affect the designated approving official's 7-day time limit. D. Up to 23 days, because the agency must pay the employee within 30 days. Pause the video, consider your response, and then resume to learn the answer. The correct answer is B. None. Additional levels of review consume the designated approving official's 7-day time limit. How much time does a certifying officer have to certify payment of a travel expense voucher claim? A. Up to 5 days, because the 7-day time limit includes 1 day for the designated approving official and 1 day for the certifying officer. B. None. Additional levels of review consume the designated approving official's 7-day time limit. C. As many as necessary. Any additional days needed to determine whether the claim is proper do not affect the designated approving official's 7-day time limit. D. Up to 23 days, because the agency must pay the employee within 30 days. Pause the video, consider your response, and then resume to learn the answer. The correct answer is B. None. Additional levels of review consume the designated approving official's 7-day time limit. Which scenario depicts proper use of the ETS functionality for returning travel expense voucher claims? A. Up to 5 days, because the 7-day time limit includes 1 day for the designated approving official and 1 day for the certifying officer. B. None. Additional levels of review consume the designated approving official's 7-day time limit. C. As many as necessary. Any additional days needed to determine whether the claim is proper do not affect the designated approving official's 7-day time limit. D. Up to 23 days, because the agency must pay the employee within 30 days. Pause the video, consider your response, and then resume to learn the answer. The correct answer is B. None. Additional levels of review consume the designated approving official's 7-day time limit. Which scenario depicts proper use of the ETS functionality for returning travel expense voucher claims? A. The designated approving official returns the claim to the employee, instructing them to add missing expenses. B. The certifying officer returns the claim to the designated approving official to disallow or allow expenses or add justifications. C. The designated approving official returns the claim to the employee, along with a notification that the claim was disallowed and a detailed explanation of why. D. The certifying officer returns the claim to the employee, informing them how to appeal the disallowance if they desire an appeal, along with the agency process and schedule for deciding the appeal. Pause the video, consider your response, and then resume to learn the answer. The correct answer is B. The certifying officer returns the claim to the designated approving official to disallow or allow expenses or add justifications. How many days does a designated approving official have to review a travel expense voucher claim? A. 3. B. 5. C. 7. D. 9. Pause the video, consider your response, and then resume to learn the answer. The correct answer is C. 7. A designated approving official is on leave for 3 weeks. A travel expense voucher claim is received the day after their leave starts. Who may review the claim to allow and disallow expenses? A. The reviewing official. B. The certifying officer. C. Another designated approving official. D. An accounting technician. Pause the video, consider your response, and then resume to learn the answer. The correct answer is C. Another designated approving official. Which travel expense types will have the amounts reimbursed directly to the IBA travel charge card through split pay? A. Transportation, per diem, and miscellaneous. B. Rental cars, common carrier transportation, and lodging. C. Lodgings plus, actual expense, and reduced. D. Air, rail, and taxi.
The correct answer is B. Rental cars, common carrier transportation, and lodging.
Congratulations! You have completed this episode. Thank you for participating. The next episode in this series is episode 9. How to appeal disallowed travel and transportation expenses.